Welcome to this month's Office Add-ins community call. So this is the February community call. My name is Preethika Kiruveedula. I'm a PM at Microsoft, and I will be hosting the call today. So we have a few items on our agenda that we will be going over. Starting off, we're going to have a demo from David about creating a spreadsheet from your website, and then we'll have an update about upcoming preview Word APIs from Yoon. And we'll also be going over add-in support for new Outlook with Juan and Nikita. So on our agenda today for our presenters, we have David Chesnut, who's a senior technical writer at Microsoft, Yoon Wang, who's a principal product manager at Microsoft, Nikita Mittal, who's a senior product manager at Microsoft, and Juan Balmori Labra, who's a principal product manager at Microsoft. All right, David, do you want to start your demo?
Yeah, thanks, Preethika. And I'm going to talk about a scenario that we've had documented for a while, a little over a year, I think, but we just recently released a code sample for it as well. So I just want to walk through that. So let me go ahead and share my desktop. Okay, so in our documentation under our samples, we've had this open in Excel scenario that we documented a while back and just got updated this morning along with a code sample for it because it was a bit hand wavy before. It just kind of pointed you at some stuff and said, hey, put this together and you can do this scenario. But now it has an end-to-end code sample for it, which I'm going to walk you through. So this is actually the first in a series of what we're hoping to create, which is more scenario-based content. And the idea is to base this on successful patterns that we see our partners using. So if you see partners presenting at conferences like Microsoft Ignite or Microsoft Build, you'll see they're often sharing their experiences with the Office platform. But we've also realized there are patterns that we can share with the broader audience to share that success basically with other folks. And so it'd be great to get your feedback in the chat, or later on I'll share a link to a survey if you want to share more about what you think about this, if you think anything's missing or could be clearer as we're going to continue to iterate on this and create more scenarios as we go forward. So it starts with talking about what the success is about, like why you would want to use this. And so this first paragraph here is talking about the basic scenario is you have a website like this Contoso product sales here, and it shows a user's data. They've signed in and they're seeing data specific to them, but they want to take that into Excel, do some number crunching on it or some other analysis, and maybe eventually sync it back up to the database on your website. And usually that could work in a number of ways. And this is like a pain point that our partners were noticing is that end users will go in, they'll see their data, they'll have to put it like in a CSV file, open in Excel, do their thing, and then re-upload it at some point. So it's kind of a lot of steps to it. And what this pattern does is it takes it more to a one-click kind of thing. So you have an Excel button on your website, and when the user clicks it, it creates the spreadsheet for them and then opens it in a new tab. So it just all happens at once. And one of the bonuses to it also is you get your Office add-in embedded. You can embed your add-in, which is nice because you can keep the user connected to your services. And we found, our partners have found that this has increased customer satisfaction and also the engagement numbers on the add-in itself. So you'll get more views to this, more usage of your add-in. So then we have some prerequisites for working with the code sample. I'll just walk through the solution architecture real quick because there's a number of moving parts to this. So one is going to be your web server, which serves up this web page with the button, and that's going to handle signing in the user. And so at some point, the user clicks this button saying, all right, let's take the data into Excel. So the first thing it's going to do is call this Azure Functions app to create the spreadsheet. And it's going to, inside the Functions app, it's going to use OpenXML SDK. So because the OpenXML SDK is .NET based and C#, we've encapsulated that in Azure Functions app separate from the node server that's running the web page. So when the Azure Functions app constructs it, it returns the spreadsheet in the form of a base64 encoded string. Then it takes that string and uploads it to OneDrive. So it's going to call the Microsoft Graph API. Say, here's the string. Microsoft Graph API turns that into an actual file on OneDrive and returns the web URL of that spreadsheet. Now you can take the web URL, open that in a new tab, and the user gets their spreadsheet. So at a high level, that's how it works. The key things you want to note about the solution is, one, you want to use the Fluent UI buttons. So these are the official ones that will help users understand where they're going when they click on the button. And you don't have to like literally write out the text, open this up in Microsoft Excel. You could just have the button. That should be obvious enough. And so in the sample code, it shows how you can get these images from the CDN. You'll want to sign in the user. And so the sample code is built on this existing sample from the Microsoft Identity team. So there's some information there. And basically, if you want to know anything about the auth side, I would just point to that sample. There's nothing Office specific about the authentication here. And if you're using other platforms, there's also additional samples out there you can use. Then you, of course, want to create the spreadsheet using the OpenXML SDK. So we'll talk in a moment about the function create spreadsheet, as well as the spreadsheet builder class, which is using the OpenXML SDK. You want to populate the spreadsheet with data. And we'll show how that works. That's also using the OpenXML SDK. And then you can embed your Office add-in inside the spreadsheet. And so in this case, we'll show how to do that using the OpenXML SDK, and we embed the ScriptLab add-in. And this is the idea of the ScriptLab add-in. And the version, the store and store type properties, and there's some information down here about what those do. There's also, if you're not an app source and you're centrally deployed, there's some commented code in there that you can use that will actually set you up for doing central deployment. It's not really possible to do like a side load scenario. It's just really squirrely. I tried to get that to work, but it turns out you have to be side loaded before you side load. It's really hard to get it working correctly. So for right now, it's not in the sample to show how to do that. Then to upload the spreadsheet, that's kind of the last step you do. Some additional things this sample doesn't do, but you might want to consider doing it, is you can embed custom properties when you embed the add-in. So for example, this shows some code for how you could put in name value pairs, like a username. And that could be useful so that when the spreadsheet opens and your add-in pops up, it can just go read that data out and be ready to go. And then on the JavaScript side, you can, in your add-in, you could read the properties using this office.context.document.settings.get, and then the name of the property. Big caution here, don't put anything sensitive in there like auth tokens, because this information is not protected in any way inside Excel. Anyone can open up that Excel file and see what's in there. So if you do need to use like an auth token or something, use single sign-on. And there's a link here to how to set up single sign-on. And that way you don't have to store anything sensitive in there. So let's take a look at the demo. Here I have the homepage open. So we can imagine I'm on my website. I need to go sign in to start seeing product sales data for me. So I'll click on the sign in button, and I'm going to sign in I have a test account, Microsoft 365 test account. Sign in. All right, so once I'm signed in, and this is just mock data, there's like an actual database up there or anything, but return some sales data, and I can see sales by quarter. And at this point, I'm like, okay, so I want to take that. And you can see like I'm signed in as well. It's got my name there. So let's take that into Microsoft Excel. Click on the button. See, it opens up a new tab, and then opens up the spreadsheet. And you can see this spreadsheet has the data, and it should pop up ScriptLab here in a second. There's ScriptLab, it's embedded, so that's cool. So it's ready to go. So just one click, it's pretty simple. So let's take a look at the code. Over here, I have the Azure function project. This is in Visual Studio. And so we have the function create spreadsheet right here that gets called. I'm going to post to it JSON that represents the rows and columns of data that I want to insert into the spreadsheet. And so we'll pull that out into this table data variable by deserializing the JSON. And then it calls the spreadsheet builder class to go create that spreadsheet, passing it the table data. This just names the sheet that's going to put it into. When we're done, we convert that. It returns a byte array. We convert that into a base64 string and return it back to the client. So let's look at spreadsheet builder. This has all the OpenXML part of it. And so it doesn't work with files on the disk. I'm not sure you could do that in an Azure function or even on the, in a web page. So instead it's using a memory stream, creates the document in memory, and then adds the workbook part and adds the sheet. I'm not gonna go line by line through this. Basically it constructs the fundamental frame of the spreadsheet, and then it puts the data in it by calling insert data at row 1, column 1 into this particular sheet with this table of data. And then it also embeds your add-in. So we can take a look at these two. These are interesting. So insert data is just going to go through each row, each column, and insert each cell one by one using this insert cell value function. This is all open XML stuff, but let's go down here where we're going to embed our add-in. So here's where we create the web extension section, and we're going to add into that information it needs. And then here's where we indicate the ID of which web extension we want. This is the add-in script lab. Here's the commented code if you want to use central deployment instead. Here's where we put in a property to say, hey, open this up when the spreadsheet opens. So you can have it actually auto open. Oh, by the way, let me show. I'm not sure why this isn't working online, but if I go and open this on desktop, it works. So this is something I'm trying to track down. I'm not sure why there's this little hiccup, but like here you can see it auto opens, like script lab just opens up automatically, which is the behavior we want. Anyway, let's go back over here. So here's where you can add additional properties if you want. And if right now it's just commented out. And yeah, that's the Azure function side of it. For the web application side of it, all right, there's a bunch of files you get. Now, these all come from the base identity sample that I based this on. So I would say if you want to understand what auth config is doing and auth redirect and so on, go refer to that sample. I'll have a link to it at the end. All that's changed in this sample to make this work is adding a button on the HTML page. And then when the button's clicked, it's going to call, let's scroll down to it, this guy here, open in Excel. All right, so what this does is it says, all right, let's open up our new tab on the browser. And then we're going to get our mock data, which comes from this table data object. That's over in this table data.js. So this is another thing I added just so we have our mock data. And this is the format it's in. You could change this to whatever format you want if you're doing something different. And then this is the URL of our Azure function that we're going to call. So we go ahead and call that, posting the body JSON, and then when it comes back, we get this blob of base64 data basically, and then we're going to call upload file to upload that to OneDrive, and that's down here. So to do that, we're going to call the graph API, and since we're already signed in as an SPA, we can make that call from here. Tell it which folder to put it in, the file name to put it in, and then we'll get back a result, and you'll see that later on we'll use that to set our tab to that web URL location. This call graph is a helper that came with the original sample. So you just need to pass it, which scope you're using and interaction types and stuff like that. You could create additional graph calls by just reusing this call graph call. And that's pretty much how this code works. One more thing to show is if you open up, I was going to show you where it creates it on OneDrive. So if you go to your OneDrive, it creates this open in Excel folder, and then you get the spreadsheet file. Then if you pop it open, if you rename that file to like a zip, this is how you can just see like the raw parts inside there. I like doing this just to discover how things work. You can go into this Excel folder under web extensions, and there's this web extension 1 XML. And if you open that up, and then we'll do a little reformatting here. I just want to show you that these properties are pretty easy to get to. Like, here's a property, right? So this is what I'm saying. Like, don't put secrets in here. Like, this is how easy it is to go in there and see what it's doing. All right, let me see. I think that's pretty much it. Let's go to back to the presentation. Yeah, on the link slide, I was just going to point out, like, it has a link to the article, has a link to the sample code. It also has a link to the original sample that I modified, just in case you want to reference that. And then there's also a link to a code sample survey. So if you have feedback on the scenario approach or the code or anything, suggestions to make it better, just go out there, put in the name of the sample that you're referring to so we know, and then just give us verbatim feedback about what you'd like to see changed. And I believe that's it. Thanks, Preethika. Thanks, everyone.
Great. Thanks, David. That was an awesome demo. As David mentioned before, feel free to add any questions in the chat and we'll go ahead and answer them now or in the blog post. All right, moving forward, Yoon will be going over some upcoming preview Word APIs that are coming out soon. So Yoon, did you want to take over?
Yes, thanks. Hello everyone. My name is Wang, and I am the product manager for Word Extensibility. And today I will talk about upcoming preview Word APIs. So in March, we will release several sets of APIs, and I will quickly go through each API set quickly today. And hopefully we can have further detailed introductions of each one in upcoming community calls. But today I will quickly go through those. And the first one is the new insert file from base64 API. So if you have ever used this API previously, we already have insert file from base64 at the body level in the past. So the past behavior is that users can leverage this API to insert the content from a document into the current document that the user is working on. So as shown in the picture here, on the right side, it is the source document, and if we want to insert the content of this document into the left side, then the body.insert file from base64 API can be leveraged to do so. So the current behavior for this is that after you call this API, you actually can insert the certain content into the target document. As shown in this picture, the content, the sentences is just appended to the target document. So this is the existing behavior, and this is the API at the body level. And also for this body.insert file from base64, it has another behavior that if the source document that you want to insert into the target has a much more richer format. For example, if the source document has different fonts, different styles, style settings, and also borders, watermark, etc. When the user tries to leverage the API to insert these things into the target, it will fail to. The fail means that only the text content will be inserted into the target document, but what are loose, those watermarks, header, footer, or page border and stylings are all lost during this process. So we make a enhancement. The reason why we lose all those things was because that many of these settings are not at the body level. They actually are at the section level or the document level. So that's the reason why we introduce a new API with the same name at document level. So document object will have a new API with exactly the same name. The purpose here is that once the user wants to insert a source document into the target, then we want to retain as many things as possible. So in the example here, example 1, a user wants to import or insert a file with different things like page borders, watermarks, etc. into a blank document, then these things will be retained after the insertion. So after the insertion, you will see the page border, header, footer, watermark from the source document. So that's first behavior or first feature. And also, if the target document is not a blank document, which means that the target document also contains different page borders, footer, header, those settings. Then after the insertion, we will create a new section, and the new section will keep the source document settings. So if you take a look at the result in the picture, if the user want to append the source document content into the target document, then those page borders, header things will be kept and appended into the document as well. So this is another enhancement we do for this new API. And also, instead of keeping these content level things, we also select several document level settings to give the user the choice to see whether you want to retain these settings or not when doing the insert file from base 64. For example, track changes. If you want to retain the track changes settings when doing the insertion, now we provide you the capability to see whether you want to do that or not. Also, it is the case for the style settings. For example, in this example here, the source document has a style setting, and also for the target document, it has a different style setting. But after the insertion, the user can choose whether to keep the source document styling settings, etc. So this is the new enhancement we do for this API. And just be noted that the original insert file from base 64 API at the body level continue working as previously. So we didn't change the behavior of the existing APIs, but this one is the newly added one at document object. So that's for insert file from base 64. And next one is style APIs. We receive different requirements, and here I just show a sample add-in that can demonstrate the requirement. So the requirement here is that the add-in wants to not only apply the styles into to the document, to the paragraphs, but also the add-in want to select different styles from some other document. In this example here, if you take a look at the side panel here, the Word add-in actually can list different styles from another document. So in this case, the user, the add-in will choose some specific styles from another document and apply them into the current one. So if you take a look at this picture, the left panel, the task pane actually shows the styles from another document. And after the user click one of the styles, and this style will be applied to the current document. And also the users can choose whether to apply these styles into the style gallery or not. So we have a set of APIs to support this scenario. So basically there are two major capabilities here. One is that we can retrieve and pass the styles from a base 64 format of a Word document. So this Word document can be another document, or it also can be the current document that you are working on. So once the base 64 format is there, and you can retrieve and pass different style settings and retrieve different types of the styles, including the used styles in the source document or the customized styles that created in the source document. And after you retrieve all types of the styles from the source, then you can have another API to apply these styles to your current Word document, so that it will have the user not only say, hey, I want to choose some specific fonts to form a style, then the add-in now can be that I can select some specific look and feel from another document and apply that look and feel into my current document. So that is the basic working flow. And next, that is the save close APIs. So for save and close, now we provide two APIs so that you can save an existing document or you can save a new document. So there are different cases whether you need the prompting dialog is needed in order to specify a file name. And for close APIs, we also provide the support for new document and existing document. But for close API, the current behavior is that once you choose to call it, after you finish the calling for the close API, the add-in will disappear and you don't have the control of the add-in anymore. So this is the current behavior of the Office add-in. But in the future, we could have some enhancement there. But today, you will lose the control there. And the next set is Fields API. I know many of our partners asked for this for years, actually. So Fields API in 1.4, we actually released a support for get fields functions so that you can retrieve and get different fields from your document. For the upcoming preview, now we have the full support like create, update, delete fields capabilities. In March preview version, we will support selective types of the fields. So we will start with the add-in type and later on may expand to other types. So in March version, you could see 1, 2, or 3 types of the fields there to have a try. And this is not only enabled for Word Desktop, but we also do many enhancements for Word Online so that your add-in can also work for Word Online for the specific types of the fields. Content control event APIs. You may already know that we have different content control events APIs in the preview already, but we added 2 recently. So one is enter a content control and exit a content control. Again, not only API, but also the Word Online capabilities was enhanced, that Word Online support more content control features so that your add-in will work across the platforms. So previously, the first 4 event-related APIs are there in the preview set for a while. We are expecting to have all these 6 APIs moving into GA state in the middle of this year. So that's the quick briefing for different APIs as preview in March. And again, these APIs will have highly possibilities to be GA'd in the middle of this year. And we also want to collect your further feedbacks for future enhancement requirements. So please scan the QR code or click the link here so that you can enter into a survey for future advice and suggestions to us. And that's all. Thanks very much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Yun. That was a great update. Yes, please fill out this feedback form. We'll also add it into the chat, and also will be in the blog post in case you forget to do it this morning. All right, moving forward. Nikita and Juan will be going over add-in support for new Outlook.
So hey everyone, I'm a product manager with the Outlook extensibility team. And today we'll talk about add-in support for new Outlook. So what is new Outlook for Windows? So it is an initiative where we want to simplify things for customers by unifying our code base and increase engineering velocity. New Outlook is essentially overcode in a native frame. And the new Outlook for Windows is already available for Office Insiders. You can check out our public documentation using the link shared here to learn more about it as well. We also look at this as an opportunity to get a consistent experience across platforms. If you look at it, today we have different clients for Outlook like Windows, Web, Mobile, Mac. As a long-term vision, we want to unify the code and UX to have one consistent platform with new Outlook. So with that context in place, let's see the add-in support on new Outlook for Windows. I'll start with web add-ins, and Juan, the next speaker, will also talk about the COM add-ins. So firstly, new Outlook is only available for Windows right now. You can use the toggle at the top right corner to move to new Outlook. This means that the current and the new Outlook will exist in parallel for now. The good and the big news here is that web add-ins are already available for new Outlook, and it doesn't require any additional work from partners. You can start using it today if you have an account with Insiders. However, in case you have multiple accounts in Outlook, web add-ins are currently available only for the primary accounts, and it will be disabled if you move to another account. We expect the full add-in support for secondary accounts to come in by fall of 2023. I'd like to call out that this is a very good time to test out your add-ins on new Outlook because many of your users will start seeing this toggle. Please reach out to us if you face any issue while using your add-in. using the GitHub link mentioned here in the slide. So yeah, with that, I'll ask Juan to walk us through an update for COM add-ins on new Outlook for Windows.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Nikita. So I have many updates for you folks. I'm so happy to be here this morning to talk about what we are doing for new Outlook. But I want to start by I think we shared this message a long time ago, but I want to share what the new Outlook means for developers, for adding developers. So my main message for you folks today is that, as Nikita mentioned, the new Outlook it's based on it's going to be based on the web client. So that means that COM and BSTO add-ins for Outlook are not going to work, in the new Outlook. So it's not going to be an option. The good news here is, well, I have many good news here, is that web add-ins are the future. So many of you have already invested in creating a web add-in, and that's great because your add-in should just work in the new Monarch. So as Nikita shared, we recently updated the new Outlook to support add-ins. So make sure to try your add-ins, and they should work right now, and if not, please, we want to hear from you. We need our help from our community to make this a successful transition. Many people ask, when is this going to happen? And the answer to this question is that we don't know. But I want to we're giving the clear signal that this is going to happen at some moment in time. The rollout to try the preview is happening, as you can see today in the preview builds. For real production customers, it's going to start to happen this year. So we look at this as a journey. And if you remember the project we did a few months ago around the new Mac UI for Outlook, that preview stayed there, or it was a multi-year transition. Also, we don't know exactly when this is going to happen, but we are going to make this transition responsibly, making sure that number one, irrespective of add-ins, that the product itself it's on par with what you can do with the desktop Outlook today, right? So with that, again, for adding developers, now is the right time to engage with us. We are investing. I will share in my next slide so that you can see all the great strides that the team is doing. We know that there might be some gaps, that prevent you from moving your existing Outlook COM add-ins to web add-ins. So this link, please use this link. It will take you to a survey where you can actually contact us and share the gaps that are present in your add-ins, and we can start adding them to our backlog. So as I said before, so this is a big slide, but I want to share with you how are we closing these gaps, right? We recently posted actually yesterday for the first time a page that is going to be very useful for this process. And basically this is a live page. If you go to akams/Outlook COM to web status, you're going to see a page that is going to give you information about what the new Outlook means for you. And not only that, we will also share the status of different scenarios that can be implemented today. Now, as you can see here in this list, what I'm listing in this table, each row represents a scenario. So basically, we have the information about what are the top COM add-ins that are used out there, the millions of users still using COM add-ins, and basically we did a classification of those add-ins, and we ended up with a list of what are the most popular and enterprise kind of friendly, because there are some add-ins that are in fact mission critical, as you can see from this list, that are the most popular ones, no? And this is the list that we ended up with. We ended up with a bunch of security types of add-ins, which are by far the most important segment. As you can see, a lot of our investments are towards satisfying those scenarios. But we have spam reporting, we have online meeting providers, we have add-ins that are kind of what we call meeting boosters that are adding additional functionalities to appointments, like, for example, selecting locations or adding catering services, or there are add-ins that provide, capabilities to specify specific lighting or temperature configurations to a meeting room, and so on and so forth. This list is basically telling you three things, no? Number one, what are the scenarios that we are kind of focusing right now? So if you don't see the scenario you're adding here, I also want to hear from you. I want to make sure that you are covered. Although I gotta say, these add-ins are very complex. So it's like they require a lot of rich interactions with Outlook. And I believe that by enabling many of these scenarios, I think we're going to enable a big number of other potential scenarios, right? Just to give you an idea here about, again, it's telling you what is a scenario, more or less a brief description of the scenario. What is the status today? So if you are about to start a journey to create an adding into these types of scenarios, I think, as you can see here, with the effort that we've been doing for the last many years, you can actually support multiple of these ones, right? There are a bunch of spam reporting and education add-ins out there. That doesn't mean that we are not going to investing in those scenarios. The scenarios fully supported. We believe that you can create an experience, a super good experience with a web add-in, but we are also adding even more features to make them even better, right? Just to give you one example, we have many spam reporting partners who are there's a consolidation of the spam reporting experience across Outlook clients today, and we're going to provide extensibility points to participate in that consolidation project. They require more events. For example, today, if you follow Outlook add-ins, you will know that we have events that auto launch when you are composing emails or when you are creating new emails or adding recipients, basically in the composition scenario. But not in the reading scenario. So we require more events for when you are actually reading emails. So online meeting providers, we recently set out the auto-run capabilities for online signature partners. But I want to focus the conversation more in the ones that are semi-supported, so which are attachment management types of solutions. And in the last column, you will see features that currently our team is working on, in order to support them. For the attachment management, for example, we have strong feedback that you require to select multiple items. So you want to upload, for example, a set of items into SharePoint, for instance. Well, today that doesn't work with web add-ins. You can only select one item at a time. So we are supporting now multiple selection, context-less add-ins, which means basically that your add-in can be present even if no items are selected, or if you are not in the reading, if you don't have a reading pane active. That is very important for certain type of add-ins. And again, we are right now focusing a lot in security scenarios. For example, you will see that for message encryption scenarios, when you encrypt and decrypt email content, we're going to be working in some capabilities for example, body replacement. Today, you can get a long way in these types of scenarios, but the last mile, which is on encrypting the message and showing it in the body of the email, is not supported. Also, we are working on a body replacement API. And then we have, the DLP types of solution, data loss preventions, that requires access to the sensitivity labels and many other features, right? So that is what I want to share with you is this information is going to be live. It's out there. If you go to that link, check it out. There are some scenarios that we definitely today we could not support in the way we would love, like for example, proofing emails. If you want to provide information while the user is typing a message or providing kind of assistance or proofing capabilities, this will be super complex to be supported. However, it's also in the backlog, so eventually we will have these type of functionalities. I'm going to stop there for a second and see if there are any interesting questions here. I see that there's a lot of activity in the chat. It includes BBA, yes. BBA it's also not going to be supported in the new Outlook. Smart alerts. Yes, smart alerts. That's cool. Okay. How can you contribute? If you want to contribute to this, the way to contact our team is to use the link that I shared below, the AKAMS Dev New Outlook. That will open a survey for you that we're going to get some information about your scenario, what are your target customers. You are able to provide your contact information if you want to share your contact information with us. And once you do that, we can engage with you and kind of disclose more closely, what the plans that we have for a specific scenario. And of course, we're open to feedback right now. We need your feedback, folks. And that's it. That's the information that I have for now. The bottom line of my message here is we know that the new Outlook is coming. Web add-ins are going to be the main extensibility option for the new Outlook. And the team is super committed, folks, to add the richness needed to move your existing investments into web add-ins. And with that, I would take it back to you, Preethika.
Great. Thanks, Juan. That was an awesome presentation, Juan and Nikita. So yes, once again, if there's any questions, feel free to add them in the chat. We'll go over them today or in our blog post later. And please fill out any of the scenarios on aka.ms links. Moving forward, so we have a quick call to action today for Outlook mobile add-in developers. If you are an Outlook mobile add-in developer, we would love to learn more about your scenarios and what you're using your add-in for and any problems that you may be encountering. So please fill out this developer survey right here. It's just for us to get a better idea what we need to plan in the future and what APIs and things like that folks are looking for. So please go ahead and fill out the survey. That'd be super helpful. All right, moving forward. Quick Q&A here. So one of the questions that we received was, we just saw that PowerPoint desktop client now supports PowerPoint API 1.5 with the semi-annual channel. We tried the PowerPoint web client and it still does not. Will that be rolling out soon to keep up with desktop client? The answer for this is the PowerPoint 1.5 support for PowerPoint online web app is still being rolled out. You should see it being available soon. Functionality should also work even if the supported requirement still returns 1.4 at this time. Okay, the next question was about Outlook for mobile. So I'm writing an add-in that needs to run on Outlook for mobile and activate at any stage during the composition of a message. Given that the on-send feature and event-based activation do not support compose mode on Outlook for mobile, are there any workarounds to get an add-in to trigger an Outlook for mobile when composing a message? Alternatively, is there any update on the roadmap for supporting compose mode for add-ins in Outlook for mobile? So this is currently being investigated. The answer will be present in the blog post that will come out shortly after this call, so please be on the lookout for that. I'll also have the answer in the next community call if necessary. So now that we've ended our presentations for the day, if you're new to our community call, here are a few links on how to get started with Office add-ins and how you can get more information about the different products we launched from our team. So there's a documentation link, a few quick starts to get started, script blabbed, our samples repo, and our M365 developer program, and a link to Office scripts. And in order to engage with our team and to ask more questions, feel free to have any technical questions asked on this aka.ms link right here or on Stack Overflow. We monitor both. If there are any product bugs that you discover, please issue them in the GitHub repo right here for Office.js. And for feature requests and ideas, we have the M365 Dev Suggestions aka.ms link. So that's also a great place to do that. And of course, if you just want to send a smile or frown, you can go to Inside Office. And we also have a few other community calls across M365. So if you're interested in something other than just Office add-ins, feel free to attend any of these calls as well. They're all linked here and on the screen, so feel free to follow any of these. So our recording will be available in about 24 hours on the M365 Community YouTube channel. You can follow this link to see all the YouTube videos from our previous community calls. Feel free to follow us on Twitter. Our next call will be on March 8th at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time at this link right here. We will also be posting the agenda, and if you have any questions for the next community call that you would like answered, submit your questions here. And that will be all for today. Thank you so much for attending. Looking forward to seeing you next month.